Identify the property illustrated. 16 plus 17 in parentheses plus 3 equals 16 plus in parentheses 17 plus 3. If you noticed, the order of the numbers didn't change. 16 plus 17 plus 3, 16 plus 17 plus 3. The only thing that changed is on the first one, we're grouping together 16 and 17. On the second one, we're grouping together 17 and 3. So anytime we just change which numbers we're grouping together with parentheses, that's the associative property. So this is the associative property of addition. I'm just going to do property of addition. Number 2, compare when x equals 3 and y equals 2. So the first thing we want to do is go plug in our numbers for x and y. So we have 3 squared plus 2 cubed, and over here 3 squared times 2 squared. So let's go back to the left. 3 squared is 9 plus 2 to the third is 8. That's going to be 17. Over here on the right, 3 squared is 9 times 4 squared is 4, and that's 36. So this one is bigger, so our answer is right there, greater than. Number 3, find the difference. So I'm going to rewrite this using addition. So we have negative 4.1, and we're going to add a line, change a sign, so this becomes plus. Change the sign, so that becomes a positive 5.6. So now we have a negative plus a positive. So when the signs are different, we find the difference. So 5.6 minus 4.1 is going to be 1.5. And since our bigger number was positive, our answer is going to also be positive. So 1.5 is our answer. Problem number 4. Lily spun a spinner and recorded the result in the table below. What is the probability of landing on 1, on 2, on 3? Express each probability as a fraction in simplest form and a percent. So if you look on the left, here's all the outcomes. She could have gotten a 1. Oops, let me get this. She could have gotten a 1, a 2, or a 3. And on the right is the frequency. So she got a 1 7 times, a 2 5 times, and a 3 8 times. So that means she spun the spinner a total of 7 plus 5 plus 8, or 20 times. So 20 is going to be our denominator. So the probability of getting a 1 is 7 out of 20. The probability of getting a 2 is 2. Oh, I'm sorry. She actually got the 2 5 times, so that's 5 out of 20. And the probability of getting a 3 is 8 out of 20. Now we just need to make sure all of our fractions are in simplest form. So 7 out of 20 is 5 out of 20 we can reduce to 1/4. 8 out of 20 we can divide both by 4 to get 2/5. So we got the fraction part figured out. Now we need to do the percent. So I know a percent is always out of 100. So therefore, if I just multiply this fraction by 5 over 5, because 20 times 5 is 100, 7 times 5 is 35, so therefore this is 35%. Going on to the next one, we have 1/4. If I make that out of 100, that means I multiply both by 25. So 1 times 25 is 25, or 25%. And my last one, 2/5. Again, if I make this out of 100, that means I multiply the top and the bottom by 20. And so that would give me 40%. Now, always just make sure your percents always add up to 100. So 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yep, it added up to 100, so I know my percents are good. So that is the answer to number 4. Number 5 is just multiplying. So first off, I'm multiplying a negative times a negative. So I know my answer is going to be positive. So looking at this, I usually just kind of ignore the decimals at first and just look at it as 9 times 6, which is 54. However, I know I have one decimal place, so I just make my decimal over one spot, and my answer is positive, so that's your answer. That's it. Number 6, we have negative 4 to the third power. Now notice that this is not negative 4 parentheses to the third power, which would mean negative 4 times negative 4 times negative 4. This is just a negative 4 to the third power. So that means negative 4 times 4 times 4. So 4 times 4 times 4 is going to be 64, and then we just bring our negative down. Just drops right down. So here's your final answer, negative 64. Number 7, we have 6 times 7 minus 2. So order of operations, we're going to simplify in our parentheses first. So that's 5 times 6, which is 30. Number 8, again, is just an order of operations. We have 3 plus 5 is 8 times a negative 2. So we have a negative times a positive, so that's going to be a negative 16. Now we have 1 over 7 squared. So again, this means 1 over 7 times 1 over 7. So that is going to be 1 over 49. All right, so now we are adding and subtracting fractions. Fortunately, they are all like common denominators. So first thing I would do is go through and change all your subtraction signs to addition by adding the opposite. So for example, we have negative 1/8 plus 5/8. I'm going to change this minus to a plus. So I'm adding a line, and then I change the sign here. And then this minus 7/8, I'm going to add a line, change the sign. Now let's go back and just work from left to right. So we have a negative 1/8 and a positive 5/8. Since the signs are different, we find the difference, which is 4/8. And since 5 is bigger than 1, it gets to keep its sign, which is positive. So we have a positive 4/8 plus 3/8 plus negative 7/8. Again, I'm just going to go left to right. So we have 4/8 plus 3/8. That's going to be 7/8 plus a negative 7/8. Well, since the signs are different, we got to find the difference. So 7/8 minus 7/8 is just going to be 0. And that's your final answer. Number 11. In a bag, there are 10 tiles named as follows. 1, 1, 2, 2, 2, 3, 4, 4, 4, and 4. A tile is randomly chosen from the bag. What is the probability the tile will be a number less than 4? So that means it cannot be 4, it has to be less than 4. So that's only these numbers right here. And we know that there are 10 tiles total. And there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 tiles that are less than 4. So 6/10, but we want to reduce that to 3/5. And that's your probability. Number 12, is 48 a perfect square? Explain. No, it is not. And a reason you could say is because no number multiplied by itself equals 48. So no, this is not a perfect square. Tell whether this statement, sorry, another typo, A equals 0 times A is true or false. Justify your answer using properties. Assume A is a real number. So, does A times 0 equal A? That is false. And because we know, and here's the property I'm going to use, the 0 property, so 0 property, I'm just going to shorthand that, of multiplication. That's multiplication. I'm just going to short that since I'm running out of room. States that any number times 0 is 0. So the 0 property of multiplication. Number 14. Describe the following event as impossible, unlikely, as likely as not, so that's kind of like your 50-50, likely, or certain. Jane rolls an even number on a number cube, labeled 1 through 6. Well, an even number on a number cube is 2, 4, 6, so that's 3 out of 6, or exactly 1/2. So since it's exactly 1/2, we would say that it is as likely as not. Identify the subset of real numbers to which 2 root 5 belongs. Well, I know the square root of 5 is an irrational number. So even if I multiply it by a 2 at the end, it's still going to be irrational. So you could say real, because it's always going to be real, and irrational. And that's your answer. Find the sum, -12 plus a -7. Since the signs are the same, we find the sum, so 12 plus 7 is 19, and we keep the sign. So -19 is your answer. Number 17, a rectangular rug is 2.5 feet by 2 feet. Its area is 2.5 times 2 square feet. A circular rug has, another typo, has a radius of 2 feet. Its area is approximately 3.14 times 2 square feet. What is the combined area of the two rugs? So not too bad, we just have to find the area of each one. So let's start with our rectangular rug, which is 2.5 times 2. That's going to be 5 feet squared. And then for our circular one, we have 3.114 times 2 squared, or 4, and that's going to be 12.56. They want to know the combined area, so we just have to add these two together, which is going to be 17.56 feet squared. Don't forget your units too. Super important. Remember, area is always going to be squared. Kelly rows a boat at the rate of 7,040 yards per hour. How fast did Kelly row in miles per hour? So they gave us yards per hour, and we need to go to miles per hour. So this is a conversion problem. So remember, we always start with what they gave us. 7,040 yards And then I see that per 1 hour. Now we want to go to miles. So therefore, I need to make sure yards is on the bottom so that they cancel. And what I'm going to is on top. And I know 1 mile is 1,760 yards. So this is just a simple division problem. We have 7,040 divided by, let's write that, 1,760. And I believe this is going to be 4. Let's double check that though. It looks like it. Let's see this, 30. Yep. So our answer is 4. And then again, make sure you have the right units, miles per hour. So again, just a simple conversion problem. None of these were squared or cubed, so you only had to have one unit multiplier. 19. A number cube labeled 1 through 6 is ruled. List the outcomes of the event that a number greater than 5 is ruled. So all they want is the outcomes, and they want the outcomes that a number greater than 5 is ruled. Well, if you have a cube that's labeled 1 through 6, there's only one number greater than 5, and that is 6. So that's your only outcome. Number 20, estimate the value of the square root of 17 to the nearest integer. So when we do these problems, we want to place the integer we're trying to find in between two perfect squares. So a perfect square right below 17 would be the square root of 16, and one right above it would be the square root of 25. Both of those are perfect squares. So they want to know the nearest integer though, so let's simplify this. The square root of 16 is 4, and the square root of 25 is 5. Now notice 17 is much closer to 16 than it is to 25 if you were to put them on a number line. So therefore, we would estimate to the closest integer that square root 17 is closest to 4 over 5. And that is our answer.